Hello everyone, Chadin over here, and today we are going to take a look at Last Epoch and Path of Exile. It's going to be a comparison, like a lot of people have been doing. I want to kind of also do one. I don't know if you people know, but I've been playing Path of Exile for quite a while. Going to show you something, 1 second. So let's say I've been playing since 2011. I tried to join, of course, the closed beta and things like that. And I did manage to get in and play when the last act was Act 3. I didn't get into the Act 2 things and did a lot of things. I've been playing since then, and even on the last league. Here's my character. It's an assassin, and I also like to do cool builds. I usually do poison ones. And you can see here I'm placing Langsing still, but with poison and a lot of projectiles, etc. etc. I did play quite hard. It's not that difficult to get a headhunter this league, but I still farmed a lot more divines, and a lot of my gear is also super powerful, like these gloves and all of my abyss jewels and things like that. So I'm not a super hardcore player getting a lot of 100s and all of the challenges, but I do play quite a lot of Path of Exile. That is just to get in important things out of the way. And now let's talk about the main thing. Last Epoch, the game just came out some days ago as a release, but I've also been playing since the Kickstarter days, etc. etc. I did not play a lot in 2018, but I did check it out in 2019 and 20 when Zizaran checked it out. I did find it quite cool, and now I'm going to kind of compare the things that are important, let's say. First of all, the campaign. The campaign, it's really, in my opinion, interesting. Would I say it's more interesting than Path of Exile 1? Maybe. Depends really on how you take the things. One thing that I really like about this campaign is that you kind of skip a lot of quests at the end if you already did all your passive point rewards and idle slot rewards. You just skip them, don't do them anymore. Also, it's kind of, let's say, easy, and there's a lot of things that help you while you are going from one place to another to remember things and to also talk with all the NPCs. You also get a little intro to the forging system. I will talk about it a little later. And then Path of Exiles, we have to compare these two kind of release. Let's take the release not when it was in super closed beta, alpha, etc., but the 2013 one, when Path of Exile kind of released. Really, there were the first leaks, Ambush, and I think Tempest was it. We had, of course, the 4 acts, and then Aziri came a little bit later. So it's also the same thing that I'm going to talk about bosses and things like that later. But the campaign at those times was, let's say, I'm going to be honest, annoying because you had to do the acts 4 times. Then they took it out. The ruthless mode where was out. I think on release we only had 3. Merciless was the last one. And then I think for a time you didn't even have the 4th act. Like Malachi was not there. You finished after killing Dominus. My memory failed me. But after killing Dominus, you went into maps. There was this place where you just went to. In Path of Exile, this place where you went to. Let's say that it was on the map and everything was there. And then, of course, you You have also only the part 1 and it finished here. Then of course you also got the 4th act to play around with. And then after you killed Dominus in the Scepter of God, there was also a time when you didn't even have Dominus. You finished on Piety, killing her in the Lunaris Temple. And then of course it repeated a lot of times. Also we got Labyrinth later, but that's a thing for another time. Let's compare the Labyrinth to dungeons a little bit afterwards. And then for the campaign versus, even with this, I think the last Epoch one is a little bit more polished. Of course, they had a lot of time from 2018-19 to 2024 now, and also they could get ideas and information from other RPGs like Diablo 4, Path of Exile itself, Diablo 2, etc. etc. And the campaign was enjoyable. I'm not going to post any spoilers, but just the thing that you know here, as you can see on the upper side, you go through some eras and go back and forth between them and finish, of course, at the end of time, where after finish the campaign, you get introduced to the monoliths. That is also kind of the mapping system. Let's say the end game, rewards, treadmill, and it's also quite neat. In Path of Exile and on release, also getting maps was kind of difficult, and there was a scarcity going upwards. Was it a good thing or a bad thing? That is an opinion, so I'm not going to go into that. I did enjoy it. I did not push super hard. I think my character got to like high 80s, 90s. It was really hard to get through there because I was stuck, let's say, on yellow maps. Yellow, it's until back then it was like 72, 71. It was really hard to get XP. The big maps was like 78, and there were people crafting them and using a lot of currency on those. Now, after the campaign things, let's talk about a really important thing, that is the skills and things like that. In Last Epoch, there are a lot of skills that you can use, and you also have different classes. And you can see here that someone tried to whisper me for an item in Path of Exile. That's not important now. So you can choose 5 main skills to specialize into, and also you can choose 5 skills to put in your action bar. Those don't have to be the same. As you can see, I have shift, but I'm not specialized in it. And you also have different points. The cap for those points it's 20. I'm not going to show the things for Path of Exile now because I assume you already know it, but Path of Exile has a huge tree where you can choose a lot of things, but not related to skills themselves, but to global things. As for this, every skill has its own tree, and when you select them, you can choose and pick. Also, respecing is really easy. You just click on this respect button, and as you can see here, you can choose between 2 options. One of them is reducing the skill level by 1, and you have to level it again. There's a sail safe and a catch-up mode. Fail safe is it goes until 1 point when you are level 20, and you can see minimum specialized level. That means that even if I take all of my points, I can instantly pick 10 of them. Then I have catch up because I'm already a high level. I'm 96. I've done a lot of things in the game already, and I get really fast to level 20 again. And you can select to despecialize the skill. That takes it out from this, and you can choose another ones that are available to you. These are the skills menu. As you can see, I kind of took one item off, so that was where I got -4 on that. And there's also the passive for our own character. You have two trees, your main tree, your specialization tree. These are the main things that you can do, but there's also one thing that some people may not know. You can also specialize in the other trees from your other two specs until this chain point. In my case, I'm Blade Master, and Marksman and Falconer things are a lot of things that are not important to me, so I don't choose any of these. Of course, you can get some points, but they are not really important or needed in my case. There are also other classes like Sentinel or Acolyte, or even the Mage that get some power on the other trees that you may want to check out. I'm not going to talk super deep into classes because I've only really played Rogue. I'm going to be honest, the other classes I've not touched at all. And you also, when choose class, you get a passive bonus, as you can see here. You get max shadows, physical damage, and dodge rating. In my case, as a Blade Dancer. You can choose, of course, 3 on the different ones, but when you choose one, it's permanent. That's something that may change in the future, but right now, after you choose, for example, in my case, Blade Dancer, if I wanted to be a Falconer or a Marksman, I will have to create another character. Now, one thing that I will go really fast through, after you have finished the campaign, on your second character, there are places that you can just skip, or you can just go straight to monoliths. Places that you can see, there's like a thing that it's red, or there is like a boot thing. See, alternate leveling path. Requires Exile a completion of the temporal dungeon, etc, etc. You can also go directly to monoliths, and there's one thing that a lot of people don't like, and that may also get changed in the future. In Urals, you have to do the whole monoliths questlines and things again. That means that you have to go upwards and unlock the empowered monoliths. If you don't know how you unlock them, you have to finish these 3 last ones and then unlock the 3 timeways, going manually and going to the middle, and it unlocks the empowered monoliths. There's also a mechanic called blessings. They're kind of cool. You just get them and you can put them. There's a number of blessings and you can choose, but they are not saved. Every time you want to change your blessing, you have to do the mechanic that I'm going to talk about now, that's called corruption, and also the gate of Orbis and other things. Let's say, for example, right now I'm here, I'm farming the Black Sun or the Blood Frost one, or whichever I want. Let's say I'm going to the last ruin. This is a monolith place, and after going there, there's a little, of course, loading screen. So we are zoning into it and clicking on this thing, we can choose our mode. The normal mode, that is the one that you do the history and things like that, and the empowered mode, that is when we are already in the monolith thing. There's also specific rewards for places, and then as you can see here, this may take you back to Synthesis League if you played Path of Exile way back then, but it's a little bit different, but also a little bit similar. There are many things. I'm going to explain them really fast because they are not really that important. Every echo, that is kind of the map itself, has a modifier for enemies, a modifier for players, and then rewards. In this case, these enemies have increased health and focus on attacking players. If you have minions, they won't focus on minions, but on you. There's also modifiers that get added if there are more corruption. As you can see here, 18% too slow. They heal if they have not been damaged, and they also have a lot more health. You also, of course, get benefits from this corruption. You get item rarity and more experience. After you get to level 100, you get gold instead of experience, if you were curious about that. Here, for example, you get gold, and here you get tons of experience that will be gold in the future. Here you have a unique item, an arena key. I'm going to talk about dungeons later. Idols, it's a mechanic that, let's say, they are like charms in D2, but instead of being in your main inventory, they are in your idol inventory. They take places and you can strategically place them. Each one has different modifiers. For example, these are health. In my case, these have some resistance and some other mods. These have critical multiplier for me and other things I have. And that will be for the idols and the things. Of course, this is a really cool thing to do, and there is no limit on corruption. Although there are people that are getting to 2,000 or 4 or 3,000 or something like that, but they have only been like 1 week and something, so don't expect people to get super into those. I'm not going to talk about a lot of item mechanics because though those are super, let's say, subjective. Apart from one thing that I really like is legendary potential on unique items. Legendary potential means that you can get, for example, this sword that I have. I was unlucky. I wanted to get this lightning damage on the sword, but I couldn't. And why did I say that I was unlucky? It's because there is a mechanic where, depending on the number of legendary potential that an item has, like this one has 2, this one has 1, and there you can also have 3 and 4. 4 is the maximum, and of course the rarest one. You can choose and get an item's mods and put them into the legendary or, well, unique item. These unique items get transformed into legendary ones. This is going to be important for one thing later, but they get extra mods. You can see here I have 1 legendary katana, 1 legendary dagger, this legendary ring, and also this relic. Sometimes this makes leveling items and things to get into your other characters really good. In my case, let's say I go back to our main zone. I'm going to be there for one thing later too. You really want to also get a lot of different items and save them. For example, you have here 2 legendary potential. I save things. This has 3. And for example, if I got really good mods on a primalist, I could equip this since level 3 and level with it, even go into late game with it with no problems. That is really good because exalted items have mods that are drop only. You can see here, if you click, like it says, Alt and Control, you get the mod rangers and explanations. And you see here, tier 6 drop only. Here I also have, for example, a ring. And that means that this item has this mod that it's only available on there. You also here have, for example, penetration. It's also a tier 6 mod. Tier 7, of course, is way rarer than tier 6. You have here a tier 7 on dodge rating. And for example, if I had a unique item that was an amulet and I wanted to get this dodge rating into it, if I had 1 legendary potion, I would have covered 25%. If I had 2, it will be 50%, etc, etc. And it has to be 4 mods. This takes us to the crafting forge. There's also something really cool, and I'm just going to go through it really fast, but it's also really useful. There's an in-game guide for absolutely everything. If you don't know how to access it, it's really easy. You can also click on escape, and there's the game guide. You also have a search button and everything. For example, if you want to know what is something legendary items, and here's it. When you get an item, like I explained, with legendary potential enchanted, you go to a dungeon that is called the Temporal Sanctum, and you put them. You can also link this in chat so you can help people in the global chat. There's also a mechanic that is called Weaver's Wheel. Sometimes it drops with that and you get extra mods, but that's not really important on the mechanics themselves. In Path of Exile, these unique item things are just standalone. They get, of course, mod ranges too, but I really like the last Epoch ones more. One thing to note, of course, is items, rare items in Path of Exile are way more complex. You can also get cool things like influence on them, and also you can baal them, you can split them, you can fracture them and everything, but take into account that that came way later. In 2013, 10 years ago, but of course, well, it's important because it's the release of the game, neither of those existed. So maybe in the future we will also get influence and other things, we can split them, and this will be really cool. Of course, the crafting itself, we don't use orbs or anything like that, like in Path of Exile. We use crafting shards and runes with glyphs. We have here our crafting materials. Of course, as you can see from the number of them, there are ones that are way more rare than others. For example, this one here, it's called the Glyph of Insight, is the rarest of these ones, but not really. The rarest one is this, because it's the more powerful. You can seal an affix, making it possible for an item to have 5. Of course, you can also miss, like I did on this chest. It's a really good chest. I wanted to seal vitality or void resistance, but I couldn't, and I got them to tier 5. After you get to tier 5, you can't modify them with shards or glyphs anymore. You can only use runes. I'm going to go really fast through the runes, but I use the most important ones, and the rune of shattering, where you can get an item that you know you are not going to use and just destroy it. For example, this helmet, maybe I want to sell it, but these shoes, they are not really that important, but we may save them. These shoes, of course, are not good, and we will just put here, keep our chest again, and we can rune of shatter it or rune of removal to get these shards. Sometimes you may want to rune of removal instead, because it gives more shards. For example, here, as you see, we got 4 shards for that. Here we got 2 from intelligence, and then here we got 4 for the health regeneration shards. Instead, if we just shatter it, we get, in this case, nothing, because it's not important. Now, this refinement one is like a divine in Path of Exile. If you put it here, for example, I want this item to get more mana efficiency, because the roll is from 27 to 60, and I low rolled it a bit. And I want to use the rune of refinement. This will also use my glyph of hope. It has 25% to forge potential get to 0. There's also the glyph of chaos, where you can randomly get a different mod, and the rune, the glyph of order, that what it does is it rerolls on the outcome. What does it mean, rerolls on the outcome? It means that it prevents from it getting worse or better. In this case, for example, I had a max roll on vitality. If I wanted to still have that max roll, I will use that glyph of order. Usually I prefer to use the one of hope while upgrading, because afterwards you can always use a rune of refinement. But I digress. Now for the other runes, you have the rune of discovery. This is used to fill all the other affixes in an item. You have an item with 3 of those. You can elect to craft a new one from 0, or use a rune of discovery to get an item, one of those there. Then the rune of shaping is for the implicits. The implicits, like in Path of Exile, many items have them. In this case, we have cast speed, and it rolls from 5 to 15. If we use this rune of shaping, it goes there. I really like the crafting system in this game, but I admit that it's has right now less potential than Path of Exile 1. And as for the comparison, we will of course have to see in the future how it comes around, but I really like the crafting system in Last Epoch, although sometimes it may be a little annoying, and I hope in the future we can do more things, maybe more runes and more glyphs. And now I will explain the last 3 things that are not that important but also good. Ascendance means that you can get a normal item, like for example this one or this one, and transforming into a unique one. This unique one, of course, is selected from the pool on all of the units, and it's weighted. That means that there are some uniques that are rarer than others, but you can use these runes of ascendance to try and get those things. Then we also have the rune of creation. This is the rarest rune in the game. I only have 4 after doing a lot of things, and I got 2 of them in the same thing, and I've not gotten any since for a long time. This is like a mirror, but you need to have at least some forging potential on the item to be able to mirror it. The thing, of course, after an item has 0 forging potential, you can do any forging on it, apart from using it to slam it into a unique to make a legendary. Then, rune of research, it's to, in this case, fix an item. Like you can see here, this one, these gloves, have this research affix sealed. I used a rune there, and I got it to get sealed. Then the other mods you can see here are of course tier 5. You can't craft them anymore. If you have of course a mod that you can upgrade, you will see this thing here. And if I want, in this case, I can upgrade this, and it will take some forging potential. Also, items, as the more mods they drop into with, they get more forging potential. So you get a rare one, it will not have much, but if you have a really high level and with a lot of mods, it will have a lot of forging potential. Now, of course, here you can see here you can also get a critical success. That means that it's going to upgrade another mob. This one goes up to 5 also here. So I also can't touch this fire resistance anymore, but I can still touch this. Now, as you can see, 1 to 18, -2, and -13. I still have 27 to do a lot of other things if I want to, but I don't want to right now. Now, of course, that is almost everything for the crafting. A lot of people have made more in-depth videos, but I'm just going through it. On Path of Exile, there's way more things that you can do, but that's not important. The important thing is that for a game that just came out, I think it's really cool that we have this system to play with. Now, for the kind of last thing that I want to talk about, you may see that I'm in a place called Bazaar, because there are 2 factions that you can choose. This is the Circle of Fortune. Let's say this is like a solo thing. not self-found because there is one thing that you can do with party play, but you can choose and you get prophecies like in Path of Exile, and these seem to help for a lot of things. With these prophecies, you can get uniques, exalted items, keys, gold, etc., etc., and it helps a lot. Of course, if you are playing offline, this will be the thing that you will be able to choose. This is also another thing that this game has. This game has offline play and true offline play. What does it mean? Normal offline play, you can still see the chat here that you can see here. Of course, I'm in Spain, so the chat is going to be in Spanish, but you can also change it if you want, and you can just disable it outright if you want. You can also select which ones you want to see, and you can also change the channel. For these factions, I've talked about the Circle of Fortune, when you can choose a lot of prophecies, and there's the Bazaar, where you can trade for items. It's not like a super action house. It's not really easy to index things. Has a lot of UI and UX things that it may improve. Empyrean just today made a really good Reddit post. You can check it out. And you have levels. This is kind of to keep the power. And of course, you begin at level 1. You can buy all rare items. Then at level 2 you can buy set items. 3, you can buy unique items with no legendary potential. At 4 you can buy idols. And 4 is kind of the fast way to get to. After 4, it's going to take a little bit to level up. It's likely that you are already monoliths on here. To level up you need to use favor. And you use favor when buying items, when listing items, or you can gamble on this lady here. This one, and you can choose one of these base items, and it will roll. Because here it will reveal, and it cannot be a unique or a set item, but it can be an exalted one. These are of course special bases that you can only get here, but these ones are a little bit worse than other bases. Like for example, there's a base with cooldown reduction and also with stats. There's a base with immediate damage and critical strike multiplier. But as you can see here, it is kind of the same as the katana. So it's not really crazy. As for the last things that you want to know, even me being level 96, I'm still not rank 8. It's likely that you can get to 100 and still not be rank 9. And the legendary items, as you can see, are these ones. These are the most powerful ones, and to get them, of course, you will need that rank and also a lot of favor. Also, the gold is used for these bazaar things, but if you are of gold, on the other thing here on the Circle of Fortune, you can also use gold in dungeons. That is one of the last things that we will take about. Dungeons, let's say it will be like Labyrinth in Path of Exile, or the other lateral things that we can do. You have a lot of them in Path of Exile: Delve, Haste, and the other ones that have masters and things like that. But here you get keys, and there are 3 different ones. The Soulfire Bastion, where you go through kind of a dungeon itself with cool mechanics, and at the end you can gamble in an NPC. The gamble mechanics also save from run to run, so if you don't get any good bases to gamble with, you can save it for the next one. The Lightless Arbor, it's a dungeon when you go through, of course, also a dungeon itself with some mechanics, and at the end you can use gold to open chests with increasing amount of gold per good mod. In the end, this is how I got a lot of my Glyphs of Despair, the most powerful crafting item that you can get. but the option itself, it was 600k gold. It may take a little bit to farm that. Temporal Sanctum, it's where you will kind of fuse your items to make them legendary. And there's a thing that you need to do a higher level Sanctum to be able to fuse a higher level unique item. And lastly, there's the arena. It has two different ones. There's the normal arena key that you will use to choose from 4 mods from different ones. It will be the base one, the level 2, level 3, and level 4. All of the dojos have these ones. Level 4 being a 100 zone and quite challenging if you are not really well geared or with a really good build. And the arena key of memory is for the endless arena. You can do, of course, endless until you just get killed. Also, one thing that I didn't say, but in last epoch you only get one portal. If you get killed on that portal, depending on the place in dungeons, you get booted from them and of course lose all the potential rewards, except from the Soulfire Bastion where you keep your embers. And of course here you can see here you enter with 100 completed, or you can choose with half of the arena run. So if you were at the wave 400, you can begin from 200, whichever is higher, of course. And last thing, after everything from here and everything from there, there's the roadmap for the game itself. As you know, Path of Exile has leaks every 3, 4, and sometimes a little bit more months. This one will have cycle. This is important also because you will have cycle characters, legacy characters, and offline characters. From here, you will see I don't have any legacy characters. I deleted all of them to free up my name. You can also switch to offline, and you will be able to play your offline characters. You can also, of course, choose which ones you want to play. Of course, as any RPG, you have hardcore characters also. The hardcore here, it's a little bit different than Path of Exile in that it may be, let's say, a little bit more difficult to maybe go through, because as you only have one portal, you can't really just go for a respite and then go in again. You will have to forego that echo itself, and of course you can try again. You don't lose the rewards if you don't die, but you have to go from the beginning. So that was everything that I wanted to say. It may be a little bit long, but I think this is worth the try. If you have the $30 that costs now the base version, you can just try it out and see if you like it. As for Path of Exile, as you know, it's free. This game also has, of course, some monetization things for your armor, looks, pets. It will, of course, have portals in the future, like Path of Exile. And there's also the supporter packs that you can get. They are kind of cool. I didn't get any of those, but if you want, you can get them. That was everything, and I hope to see you on the next video.